Brothers and sisters, good morning to you all. Today we read Luke chapter 14. The title is In one heart walk together, we join the banquet. It started right at the start about a banquet. When you talk about banquet, eating, everyone is happy, right? And I'm glad. I'm happy about eating as well. But we need to be very careful because whenever the Bible talks about feasting, the feast that the Bible mentions is quite closely to how the things can be turned around. Remember the feast in the Persian, King Xerxes, King Ahasuerus gave a banquet, and then the Queen Vashti was deposed. Another king had a feast with Nehemiah, and then the city wall was rebuilt. During that feast, the table was turned. The last night of the Babylonian emperor, and then they took up the article they took from the holy temple, and then Babylonian emperor destroyed. And then also Jesus, the first miracle was done in a wedding feast. So a feast is very important, as well as it could be quite dangerous, even in the worldly setting as well as in spiritual setting. So today we want to think about feasts. Verse 1 to 6, the feast of the enemy, the subheading of it. Now it happened as he went into the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath that they watched him closely. Verse 1. Watch him cleverly with bad intention, bad motives. So it's actually one of the rulers of the Pharisees to eat bread. So they will be able to decide who is right, who is wrong in this meal. So it's with with evil intent. If Jesus had not given a good answer, he could have been killed right there. And behold, verse 2, behold, there was a certain man before him who had dropsy. That means he got swollen body. Maybe it's localized or is it generalized swelling of his body, dropsy. We don't know how this certain man appeared before him. It's like he was placed before Jesus and Jesus had to respond to him. Pharisees want to have something to accuse Jesus. And Jesus took defense this time. And Jesus answering spoke to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? Of course, to the lawyers and the Pharisee, no, it's not lawful because healing is a work, it's a job. You should not work, you should not heal on a Sabbath. That's the rule set by the Pharisees. But they did not answer though. They kept silent. Before this, 4 times Jesus performed miracles on the Sabbath. So if they say, no, it's not lawful, then Jesus will perform a miracle. If you say it is lawful, then, you get yourself into trouble. But if you say, no, it's not lawful, it's still not right. So that's why they kept silent. And Jesus took him and healed him and let him go. Verse 4. Then he asked them a basic question. Verse 5. Which of you, having a donkey or an ox that has fallen into a pit, will not immediately pull him out on a Sabbath? Jesus was asking a common questions. Jesus will ask, God will ask us some obvious questions, like God was asking Adam, "Where are you?" And then God was asking Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Here is the same. Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? Everyone knows it's not lawful. But then, do you pull out a donkey or an ox that has fallen into pits? Yes, you do. We live in contradiction. And no one raised a question ever. So that's why Jesus asked, you save donkey and ox. How come you do not try to save a person, a human? They could not answer him regarding these things. Verse 6. In the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees, everyone was well versed with the law. They want to invite Jesus to this dangerous meal to find something to accuse him. Everyone has discussed, made a plan. They found a man with a dropsy and see what Jesus did. And Jesus put everyone in silence by his answer. So when we read the Bible, we realize that people at the time have lost all the humanity. They will save a donkey, they will save an ox, but not a human being. Why would it end up like this? We ask God to help us. We need to be normal. We need to be normal. We need to put God first, people second, then the earth. So the ox, donkey are our property, belong to the earth. It's more important to save man than to save donkey and ox. It's so simple. But we are actually in a great deception. And people thought that, okay, this time I will be able to catch Jesus on his words. Heal the sick is out of our compassion. Healing the sick is out of our compassion. How come it ends up like a job, like a work, and it's been forbidden on the Sabbath? We ask God to help us. Verse 7 to 10. Join the banquet, but do not strive. Verse 7. So he told a parable to those who were invited when he noted how they chose the best places, saying to them, verse 7. When you are invited by anyone to a wedding feast, do not sit down in the best place, lest one more honorable than you be invited by him. It's a parable here, talking about wedding feast. Among all the feasts that we may attend in our whole lifetime, a wedding feast counts as something very important. So for a more important feast, we need to have higher etiquettes. So do not try to sit down in the best place in a wedding feast because it's important. Do not sit down in the best place. Do not take the top seats. Because the host will have his own mind. He will have his own arrangement. But you have no idea what position you hold in the whole setting. Do not think that you are most important. Maybe you think that I am the uncle, I am important. But maybe someone has saved this bride or groom, and then they put the person who saved them in a higher position. You have not a clue. You do not know what position you hold in the whole setting. In an important occasion or feast, people will stand by the table not knowing where to sit. I remember on my father's 80th birthday, we got all the guests. Everyone was chatting away. No one dared to take a seat because you have no idea which table, what seats you should take. Are you in the top table? Maybe you are, maybe you are not. Everyone was standing. It's a wisdom in attending a feast. Jesus was telling them not to take the best seats. Lest one more honorable than you be invited by him, then what can you do? Everyone wants to take the best seat. Don't worry, there is a place reserved for you because you are invited, aren't you? But it could be the least, the worst seat, the most insignificant seat. Maybe that's your place. Then then you'll begin with shame to take the lowest place. Verse 11, for whoever exalts himself will be humble, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Verse 11. Talk about Satan. Satan wants to be exalted to the highest, but yet he was thrown to the lowest of the lowest. If you joined a feast without knowing it, you may end up act like the Satan. And then you think, no, I do not want to act like Satan. I only think that I should be the most important, then that's it. It's so simple, right? But you act like Satan. You really want to think that you are most important. You take it for granted. Then you take the best seat. But during this feast, maybe you will be shamed. You will be disgraced. Because you are not the most important in this feast. There is the lowest place reserved for you. No one wants it. The most important person normally turns up late. You think that's the lowest place, the empty seat is reserved for him, for the most important person, the person who is late, but it's actually reserved for you. So we join the feast. We do not try to strive. The more important the feast is, the higher manners is required. The third paragraph is it requires wisdom to hold a banquet. Verse 12 to 14. Then he also said to him who invited him, it's another conversation Jesus had. So verse 7, Jesus was talking to the invited guests. Verse 12 said to him who invited him, to one of the rulers of the Pharisees. He told him who invited him, who held the banquet, the feast. He's also talking to all of us here. It's likely that we will hold a feast. We need to demonstrate divine characteristic qualities. When you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back and you be repaid. Verse 12. Why do I want to give a dinner or a supper? Why do I invite guests, a whole guest? We want to have better relationship, don't we? Maybe you want a business deal over the meal. We want to improve our relationship so that in the future we can work better together. That's absolutely fine with it. But then Jesus was emphasizing one kind of dinner or supper. When you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. So the feast may be to boost the relationship or for personal needs or to try to achieve some goals. So this feast, the purpose is not so simple. So it's like when the king gave a feast, he had a lot of hidden agendas. Maybe over a feast, the king would try to depose you from your position. So the feast is not just about a dinner or a supper. But Jesus brought us back to the basic. There is a kind of like a dinner or a supper. It's just to fill our stomach. And some people are hungry. Some people, maybe due to the pandemic, they struggle to have 3 meals a day. They have been jobless, or they have been on furlough for a long time. It's hard. Maybe for some people, they struggle to fill their stomach. These people are always with us. You invite them to a meal, they're unable to pay you back. They're unable to repay you. And then Jesus said, you invite them. You shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Verse 14. It's back to the basic of the meal. Some people go hungry even over meal. You invite someone to a meal, you may be repaid you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. We need to be wise in holding a feast. We need to demonstrate the divine qualities. The fourth one, strive to join the divine feast. And verse 15, now when one of those who sat at the table with him heard this, and he said to him, blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. So Jesus said to him, someone noticed the heavenly feast from the earthly feast. As he sees that, he saw that, and then Jesus said to him, well said. And then he said, the kingdom feast is like this. The host has a list of invited guests. They had relationship with the host. They were invited. And the feast was most important of all. But then everyone gave some make excuses. They say, I'm so busy. I bought a piece of ground. Verse 18, I must go and see it. I ask you to have me excused. He had property. And then the another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen. He has his career. Or I have married a wife, I cannot come. Verse 20, he has his own household to attend to. We need to strive to join the kingdom feast. That's the 4th paragraph. The invited guests were unable to join the feast due to the earthly cares. The host was really angry. Then that's why he said, "Go out quickly into the street and lanes of the city and bring in there the poor, the maimed, and the lame and the blind." Whether they are the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. The most distressed people, the lowest in the society, as long as they are willing to take the invitation, as long as they are willing, because there were so many empty seats, bring them all in. Whether you are invited or not, you have that opportunity. We have maybe over hundreds of reasons not to join the feast. I'm too tired. I want to watch that program, my favorite program. We have all kinds of excuses. We have all kinds of reasons not to attend. But everyone is invited. Because there are far too many people busy with their own things. That's why they cannot keep up. Well, the feast was for certain people, for the Jews, for the Israelites. But now, all people, the Gentile, including us, can join. Because they were unwilling. Grace comes upon us. What should we do? We need to strive to enter kingdom feast. The fifth paragraph, 25 to 30, actually corresponds to the fourth paragraph. Verse 25, now great multitudes went with Jesus. We go with Jesus with one heart. Verse 26, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. I don't know how to deal with these statements. When I was called into full-time ministry, it's related to this verse. Such a high standard. Isn't grace free? Isn't salvation free? I'm baptized, then it's fine, right? But here, the standard is higher than, without, it's beyond our reach. That's why I ponder on this for a long time, and I struggled for a long time before I came to the decision. My response to this verse was, we must ask ourselves, is there anything that can show whether we take God as higher priority or our parents? We have to look after our parents, we honor them, don't we? If we do not look after our relatives, our family is worse than the unbeliever. But is there one thing that can show whether we take God as a priority or not? Or you can tell that my wife is more important, my brothers and sisters are more important. We look after our children, yes. We protect them, we raise them up. But are children more important to us than God? Is there one thing that will show whether we take God as the top priority or not? It's a challenge for all of us here. It's something we must reply, a question that we must answer. Is there anything, any occasion you will consider your God to be more important than your own life? Is there any chance? Are you willing to take a risk for God? Would you seize the opportunity? The Holy Spirit will illuminate us, enlighten us. Once I went to short-term mission trip in Myanmar, and then you need to take anti-malaria tablets before going to that place. I was okay, trying to take it. But as soon as I took the tablet, something was not right. I only want to try it out because I've never been to Myanmar. Why don't I try it out? But then it seems to be so serious. So I went there and came back and I was safe. And some people told me that it's useless to take anti-malaria tablets. And then I went the second time. So I didn't take the anti-malaria tablets because it's useless, right? But I think something is not quite right. I think it's weird to take the tablet, and then it's also weird not to take it. But I went to the Myanmar, and then I came back. So it's something a little bit similar. Are we willing to take risk for God? Are we willing to bear our cross and follow Him and come after Him? If we do not want to bear our cross and come after Jesus, we cannot be His disciple. Verse 53, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. In the past, I was so afraid that I will become very poor because of Jesus, because I want to follow Jesus. God only wants the most important thing to Him. If love is most important to you, then, you just lay it down. But if money is most important to you, then forsake it. So everyone is different. If your children are most important to you, you need to forsake it too. Bear your own cross. What is it? Jesus also bore His own cross. What kind of cross do I need to bear? That you have not committed any sin, and that you are going to be accused. The cross, that means that it's someone else who make the mistakes, and yet you shoulder all the responsibility. This is walking with God. That's why we walk with God, and then we go with Him, and also go with Him with one heart. Jesus is asking us, we need to count the cost. This is a polarized way. We are God's disciple. We are the Lord's disciple. But we are also like salt to the world. It's good, but it has lost its flavor. Verse 34. It's neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill. You are even unfit to be for the dunghill. You just to be thrown it out and trample upon. So people step over you, walk over you, and go on their way. We need to think it through. This is the most glorious way. Everyone has the chance, but we ask God for more grace upon our lives. We need to take on the way of the Lord. In everything we do, we need to be Christ-like. When we join a feast, we should not be like Satan and try to take the best place. when we hold a feast, we need to be like God, imitate God, and invited those who are very poor, who are lame and blind, and invite them for meal. In all things we do, we demonstrate the attributes of God. May God help us. Let's all stand and worship our God.